Gil Martin of Locked On NHL. Glad to be with you here during our extensive coverage of the 2022 NHL Draft. With me, Brandon Pillar of Locked On Senators and our prospects expert, and Brian Fisher of Locked On Red Wings. And the Detroit Red Wings go with Marco Kasper with their first pick in the draft. Brian, your initial thoughts on the addition of Kasper?
Well, it's not who I would have thought that the Red Wings would have gotten, but Steve Iserman has enough clout at this point. Last time he quote unquote reached for a pick was Moritz Seider at 6th overall, and we all know how that panned out for Detroit. I wanted a center at 6th overall or 8th overall rather, and they got a center at 8th overall. So if Steve Yzerman is making a pick and he's going back to that SHL pool like he so loves to do, I have full faith that this guy is going to turn out to be a top 6 center like he thinks. Steve Yzerman said it himself. He thinks that Marco Kasper's skill is underrated, and I have faith that he's 100% right, because you look at his track history. Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, this past year, Simon Edvinsson was Rookie of the Year candidate in the SHL. Steve Yzerman makes a top 10 pick. I'm sorry. I'm just going to believe it.
What is it that you think Yzerman liked most about Kasper?
Well, to be honest, I think that he's got his top scout out in Sweden. That's Håkan Andersson. He's been a scout for the Red Wings for about 30 years. And in a draft year in which the Red Wings, not just the Red Wings, but all of the NHL has as little information as we do because of COVID, I think that Kasper's probably a little bit what they'll have to like about him is that they have so much tape on him comparative to a lot of these other prospects, because they have all these they have Lidstrom's out in Sweden, Kronwall's out in Sweden. They're all working with the organization. They know this guy. And if Steve Yzerman, we already know that Kasper's got a grit and he's got a grind to his game. So you add that and you think that his skill is underrated and that skill can develop. So now you have a top 6 forward that's not afraid to get in the corners, get that puck for the Detroit Red Wings, get possession and maintain possession. And then if he can add a scoring touch through his development in the SHL, which also he's playing for Rögle, which is the same team that Moritz Seider played for, not trying to hype him up too much. But when these players play in the SHL and Steve Yzerman makes these picks from players out of the SHL, again, I can't emphasize it enough. I have no reason to not believe in any pick that the Red Wings and Yzerman make right now.
Brandon, what do you like and dislike about his game?
There's not much I dislike about Marco Kasper's game, that's for sure. And Brian, you hit on a couple of the things, but I think the main thing to focus on here is Marco Kasper's motor. This guy is an aggressive forechecker. He chases down opponents. He's relentless on loose pucks. He's the kind of guy, I think, very similar shades of Zach Hyman, where you put Kasper on a line with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. They don't have to go into the dirty areas to get that puck. Marco Kasper will be there before they even think about getting to that corner for a puck battle. I think he's one of the safest players to play in the NHL because he's already doing all those little things that most prospects, it takes years of coaching to be like, okay, I know you want to stand out in the slot and wait for a pass, but you need to be at this point battling for that puck. And Kasper's already going to be doing that. For him to go to a program like Detroit where they're going to develop him properly, he's going to continue to do those things, working hard while adding to all those other parts of his game that maybe you're not seeing right now, adding point production. And I think it's maybe more likely that he'll be a winger, as he did spend a lot of time on the wing this past season, but he has the kind of hockey IQ and the aggressiveness on the forecheck and the backcheck. I would have no surprise if he ends up being a center. And the Detroit Red Wings are really filling out their roster with all types of players that help you build a proper team when you're trying to rebuild.
Not to interrupt here, but Brandon, how are you feeling, buddy? You got to be feeling pretty good right now.
I feel pretty good, yeah. But as far as the Ottawa Senators angle goes, it's nice to not be so nervous about this draft. And I think Detroit's going to be happy with Kasper, but as the Sens getting DeBrincat, I'll sit back and just enjoy this draft.
Yeah.
Brandon, how soon would you bring him over to North America if you were the Red Wings?
I think it would be good to get him acclimated to the North American game because Marco Kasper, although he's playing in Sweden, he is an Austrian kid and he was playing in Austria before this. So he's not really familiar with the North American ice surface. I think it would help a guy like him to bring him over. And we know Steve Yzerman is he's so good at developing these players, knowing when to put them in. And as typical Detroit Red Wings fashion, I'm sure he's going to have to graduate through the Grand Rapids University program before sniffing the NHL. So, but he's a guy that if they decided to bring him in early, like I mentioned, he does all those little things that most prospects don't do right. He's already doing them right. And I don't think he would be a liability to bring in. Probably not next year, but in 2 years, that'd be appropriate, I'd say.
Well, and one thing that I like a lot about Iserman's development program is he doesn't have a tried and true, like, this is how these guys have to develop and they have to go through these steps. He very much lets the players develop on their own pace. I mean, Moritz Seider obviously was a huge part of it. Seider probably was going to be in the league earlier if it weren't for COVID, but he spent time in the AHL and Rogel. But then we saw Raymond a year earlier because Raymond was just ready. So if Kasper looks like he's ready for the AHL level, he'll play at the AHL level. He's not going to hold a player back on some kind of principle. He lets the player lead the way for their own development.
All right. For more, you can watch and listen to Brian on Locked On Red Wings. And Brian, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun. I'm actually here at LCA. I'm in the back office where I used to work at up until this past week. So I snuck away to do this live after having some fun in the plaza, meeting, talking with the Red Wings, play-by-play voice and everything. It was a lot of fun. So this is a great night. I'm living life large right now.